Live because I'm live. All right, I'm just going to read off the list, guys, because I about had it with OBS because it's telling me it's trying to get data from the camera and the video on the same channel, and it won't let me delete one of them. When I delete one, it crashes the program. Yeah, so I'm not happy because I spent 5 hours researching, sorting out stuff, putting up pretty pictures, and now that's out the window. And I can't swear within the first 30 seconds because then YouTube will demonetize my channel. So I'm an hour, I'm over an hour late because OBS decided to scramble its settings between an hour ago and now. Yeah, we tested it. We tested it. We ran a quick video check this morning privately. Everything worked fine. No idea what happened. It just decided like, hey, what? I'm gonna take the night off. So basically, this is a fundraiser. I've had some unexpected expenses. For those of you curious about what happened yesterday, that was not related. That was a work-related emergency, which is not necessarily a bad thing on my end, but it wasn't my fault, but it was my problem. My job is to make sure something gets from X to Y. And when we send something, when we tell them it's going to be waiting at X and we have to get it to Y, and then the people at X, when the guy gets there, says, we have no idea what you're talking about, there's a problem, especially since X is in Bryan, Texas, and Y is in Tyler, Texas, and I'm in Houston, Texas. So that is unrelated. That was just to alleviate some fears. Um, but yeah, that was an absolute mess because that's why I was trying to do this yesterday, and I don't think we ever found the two little parts. They were going to send me to Waco or someplace. Well, anyways, if you want to donate, there's a lot of things to donate on the in the description of this video, and I just appreciate it. We're just, like I said, we're trying to raise that. So rather than having to show all the pretty pictures with the videos and stuff like that, so you can turn Winona into a drinking game, I am just going to start listing off 100 continuity errors and try to fix them all. So sorry about the poor quality of this video because it was supposed to be real pretty. Because I actually read the instructions to OBS, a program that I have used, well, not flawlessly, but I've used well enough that it should not have had any problem whatsoever. But it decided to reset all the default settings for whatever reason, and now I got to figure out how to unscrew it up. Okay, so let's get into this. All right. Oh, Jesus. It's 101. Yeah, somebody added one at the last possible second when they sent me all 3 timelines for the dwarves. Okay. So the first continuity error we've got is in the Red Steel source book. The Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide have a strong disagreement over how far the red curse spreads. And this is because the red curse was actually thrown into the supplement at the last possible second. And it was pretty much only the people working on the Player's Handbook were given how far it was supposed to spread. So the people at the DMG had already written it. And so it greatly differs because in the Player's Handbook, it's all over the map. And in the Dungeon Master's Guide, it's only in the Savage Baronies. Yeah. Yeah, play a drinking game. Yeah, whiskey brav comrade. Yeah, I'm already ready. Okay, so the continuity problem becomes, where is the red curse? How far does it spread? Because you have the Day of Dread, which is going to appear about a dozen times on this list, and it supposedly spread everything out. Well, it's easier to cut the red curse out of the Dungeon Master's Guide or out of the Player's Handbook settings than it is to add to the Dungeon Master's Guide, because the Dungeon Master nations that didn't have the red curse don't mention it. They mention that specifically they don't have Cinnabril. They don't have any problems. They have no use for Cinnabril. All right, so that's however you fix it. You use the Dungeon Master's Guide. You'll have to make your own map on how far it spread. But yeah. So, okay, so the second continuity error is the Northern Reaches. They talk about the Dark Elves and how they help the Modrigs work. And the problem is Mystara doesn't have Dark Elves. And the power level of these Dark Elves is almost off the scale. Well, thought I saw a cop car behind outside the window. That was just a trick of the light. Okay, so you've got these Dark Elves, which are unexplained. They don't fit the description of any elves in Mystara. They certainly don't have the power level of, or none of the elves in Mystara have the power level of what these guys could do. Even Drow and Shadar-kai from other settings don't work. So that's where I created the Rexen, which you can find on the vaults. You have to look around for it. It was a nightmare creature that vaguely resembles an elf. They're very pale, and they deal with a lot of soul forging. So we just created a new creature out of the blue to explain where these things came from. And we also gave them the neat ability that anything you write down about them, anything you try to record physically, will after a few days become illegible or just vanish. So there's actually no written word about them. Yeah. So number 3, the population and threshold in Night's Dark Terror is tiny compared to Gazetteer, the Karamikos Gazetteer. It's like by a factor of thousands. Well, the Karamikos Gazetteer, it takes precedence, so you use that one over the Night's Dark Terror, because everything is based off of the Gazetteer after that. Okay, then you have the ages in the Poor Wizard's Almanac. This one you have to actually do your own math, because like Anne, who wrote the Poor Wizard's Almanac, explained to me not too long ago that pretty much everything was cut and paste from almanac to almanac. Literally, the 1012 almanac and the 1013 almanac, if you look at the ages of everyone that they write about, they don't bump up all the ages 1 year. And the 1010, the 1010, 1012, everybody's 10 years older, and they don't address that at all. And that was like a really weird thing to overlook. But this is late stage TSR. This is when they're dying days. And that was a problem, because they just she couldn't be bothered to change it because they were in such a rush job. They were just doing cut and paste. Okay, continuity error number 6. Etienne lineage of Prince. In Castle Amber, Etienne d'Amberville is the 7th Prince of Amber, or the Prince of that New Avalon. And in the Glantry Gazetteer is he is the first prince. Justin Thorpe. No, I used that. I used the Bobs because they have a special place in my heart. A long time ago, I was running a movie room at a convention in Dallas, and when I asked what movie do you guys want for the cult classic, and I asked all the 80-something people working at that convention, every single one of them, without exception, unanimously voted Office Space. I told them, okay, that's great. What are we going to do for the other 72 hours? Okay, number 7, Curse of Xanathon. The module has Stephen of Runa as the Duke of the town of Runa. But in the Northern Reaches, it's Duke Goodwolf the Golden. What you have to do then is you have to kick the timeline around so that in 1000 it's Duke Goodwolf, and Duke Stefan comes around later. This is some early, when they didn't know what to do with Vestland, because Vestland actually appears in this one multiple times, and every time it's different. It is the Bargle of Nations. Let me see. The Desert Nomad War, where they kicked that to the 1200s, yet didn't change anything, because Red Arrow Black Shield was written before the Gazetteers. In this case, I just recommend using the War on All Sides, because you're not going to be playing in Mystara in 1200, because nothing changes and everything changes. Let me see. Continuity error number 8. That was number 8. Number 9. In the module War Rafts of Kron, you have to rescue an Irindi princess. Problem is, Irindi doesn't have princesses. They hadn't written the Irindi book yet, and they have a king and a queen, but they're not actually related to each other usually, and they get no bonuses to their family. There's no titles because it's just a ceremonial title. So she's not a princess, but you can still keep her the daughter of the king. And yes, Satori, basic newbie question. Ask away. Okay, continuity error number 10. A problem between War Rafts of Kron and the creature Sea People's Creature Crucible. In the War Rafts, the underwater city of Suthus is run by Tritons. In the Creature Crucible, Suthus is run by Sharkkin. Well, the easiest way to do it is just to pick a new city. So you're just changing a name. Okay, number 11, Gilharin in Saga of the Shadow Lord. In the book, he's a man. Later on, he becomes an elf. What you can do is, to steal one that we're going to be addressing later, is make him an elf of human parents. Because, you know, if both parents had elven blood in them, they can give birth to elves. Let me see, number 12. This one was a tough one. Crown of Ancient Glory is all over the timeline. That's another one of the Vestlanders where they didn't know what to do with Vestland. So they made it Arthurian, very Arthurian. And the problem is the Arthurian stuff is over on the Isle of Dawn. So move that one to Isle of Dawn. Change the names of some of the people over there. And Cardwicha. It's Cardwicha, but if you Sharad Kumrag, the CC is pronounced. Yeah, they have the noise. Okay, number 13. Sverdlov is Von Hendrick's new court wizard in is the new court wizard in not the Dimrock Dread, but the Eye of Traldar. Well, everybody knows that Bargle is the Von Hendrick's court wizard, and Bargle does not like to share. So the easiest way to do it is to make Sverdlov Bargle's apprentice and have Bargle out bargling somewhere else. The reason why they did it is because it's an adventure for level 1 to 3, and Bargle's level 16. He'd kick the party. It wouldn't be a fight. Let me see. Satori, how would I introduce the world of Mystara to a Greyhawk fan? I was interested in the world, but how would you pitch it to me? It is high fantasy, real world influenced. So you're playing Scots, you're playing French, you're playing Romans, you're playing Polynesians, you're playing all, elfy elves, dwarvy dwarves, halfling halflings, but everything is based on a real world culture. So if you wanted to play Braveheart or Yojimbo, or you wanted to, be, the guy from Moana, that's how you're doing it. Is you're playing real world fantasy races or real world fantasy types. Let me see. The Red Caps will be the best way to contact you potentially about appearing on a podcast. Email me. My email's in my about. Forsaken Wanderer. Yes, there is a lore that it was Mythic Earth. It was Mythic Scotland, and it was also Mythic France, which actually we will get to because there's a problem with that one. Let me see. Number 14 in the Night series, which is also going to be all over this list. Let me see. In the Night list, let me see. Thanos is now the Hierarch. You just got to kick him down a notch, so he's not the Hierarch. Hell is still the Hierarch. Let me see. Satori. Yes, but Greyhawk does have a lot of real-world equivalents, but they're a little bit better disguised than Mystara. Mystara does not even try to file off the serial numbers. When you, thank you, Wild Red 1905. Yeah, Mystara is, Greyhawk has real-world influences. Mystara has real-world allegories, and they're not even subtle. Let me see. Number 15, location of Ispa. That was an entire video, but I'm including it. The story behind Ispa is all of the Savage Coast baronies have a real strong Spanish influence, with the exception of Cimarron, which is Texas. And they all come from Thyatis. The problem is Thyatis doesn't have anything even closely remote, doesn't even remotely Spanish. So the idea is they come from the now Imperial territories, which are up in the northern part. I'm sorry, I don't have any maps, but I'm OBS because that's what I'm doing. And they don't have any former. So there was a big plague. They took everybody from the Imperial territories, which were the original occupants before the Phaeacians showed up, and they sent them there. So they're kind of refugees, unwilling refugees. They did have to be moved because of a plague, but they really didn't want to move. Number 16, the Archfey power levels versus the Archfey in reality. According to the fluff, the eldest Fey creatures are on power with the Immortals. According to the rules, they're about level 30. So we have to create an all new Archfey class, which is similar to the Immortals, and that would even up the balance. Number 17, and this one was actually part of the original value. This one, Skarda's plot. This one actually somebody went off on a rather impressive rant on this one. In the game, in the module Skarda's Mirror, Skarda wants to kidnap the Duke, force him to relinquish control of the kingdom to him, or else he's going to kill the Duke. The problem is killing the king does not make you the king. It makes the next person in line to be the king. Thank you, Foster Davy Smith. And since most of the people believe that Keramikos is just an autonomous section of Thyatus, killing the king or the Duke, who's a good friend of the Emperor, is a good way to have, I don't know, 3 Phaeacian legions come marching in wanting questions. And Skarda has about 75 men, and every Phaeacian legion is 15,000. Hell, the Elven Guard outnumbers Skarda's men 10-1. So instead of having him try to seize control of the kingdom, he's just trying to get a king's ransom. Let me see, Satori, what is the first book to read about Mystara and have a nice overview? Get the Mystara Player's Guide off of RPGMP3.com. It's free. It's the one I wrote, and it gives you a brief summary. It's the only Mystara book out there that has information on all the nations in some detail. And then then start going through the gazetteers one at a time, because that's one of the biggest problems with Mystara, and one of the biggest strengths as well, is that all the nations have their own book rather than just a section in a box set. Let me see. Number 18, the Turtle Clan is still in contact with the other clans. And that is a problem, because if I had a map, I would show you. Getting upset with OBS. The Turtle Clan is separated from the Horse, Bear, and Elk tribes by a 1,000-foot cliff. They are 90 miles away from Send, and they are just across a short ocean trip from Etrugan. So go find the revised Etrugan gazetteer that I wrote about 5 years ago when I was flooded in by Hurricane Harvey. Let me. I'll type in Nordic Maelstrom. I'll type in the. I'll type it in, or just Google Mystara Player's Guide, and it will be the link will be the first one that comes up. So the turtle, grab the revised Etrugan book, which I did with some other guys that completely rewrote the Etrugans, but still kept it along the same lines. The only problem was the original Etrugan was famously put out in 90 days, so it's not even Cliff Notes. Number 19, this is one of the big ones. The half race argument. There's 3 different ways to handle half races. Use the rules for Alfheim, where basically you're born the same as your same race as your same-sex parent, but you keep the other your other parent's race kind of as a recessive trait, so that if you and somebody else who also has the same recessive trait, for lack of a better term, go off and have a kid, there's a chance that they will come out a different race, as long as both parents share the trait for that one. Let me see. Are those audio recordings they made for some of these releases available anywhere? Sometimes, a lot of them are on YouTube. Why is the phone going off? That's muted. And some of them are on YouTube, but I can't verify that. But if you hoist the black flag, it's not hard to find, I guess. I didn't say that out loud. Okay, speaking of things that came with audio CDs, number 20, the Song of Halav. In Bekmi, it's the poetic Edda with all sorts of hints, insinuations, and stuff like that, where they never actually give it to you. And in the second edition, they present the entire saga of Halav by cutting and pasting the description of it and saying these are the actual words. Ignore second edition. 21. Let me see. Wild Red, 1905. Do two humans do make an elf? Yes, that's actually in Alfheim. There's a canon character whose both of his parents were humans but had elven ancestors, and he came out an elf. So, and he actually is 200 years old. He's outlived both parents, but he was an elf born to humans, and he is an actual character. Okay, so 21. This is where we're starting to get into the novels, and the biggest part of it is ignore most of the novels. Like in one of them, you have a magical creature called an aboleth that's stealing all the magic from Mystara. It's never mentioned before or after. It's never talked about. It's never brought up. It just came out of the blue. Ignore it. Let me see. In the Dragon King trilogy, the Gemstone dragons act nothing like their counterparts in the Monstrous Compendium. Go with the Monstrous Compendium. In number 23, the Dark Knight of Keramikos, you end up running across a pit fiend that's harvesting Mystara souls. Okay. In Wrath of the Immortals, the Council of Intrusion specifically does not allow that. And it would not be a party of adventurers going after the pit fiend to try to stop it from harvesting souls. It would be some very angry immortals along with some very powerful creatures of their own creation going to have a word with the pit fiend and dragging him back for a few thousand years of conversion therapy. Let's put it that way, as they convert him into something that fits into a bucket. All right, so number 24. A lot of the stories have gnolls invading things before Nithya, and considering Nithya made gnolls, you can't have gnolls before Nithya. So change those into the beastmen, the proto-humanoids before they actually became humanoids. Let me see. Yeah, hold on. Let me type this in real quick. That link right there to the Mystara Player's Guide. Again, just Google Mystara Player's Guide and it'll come up the first link. Okay, so where was I? Let me see. Number 25. Quarter of the way done. Hutakans that keep appearing outside of Keramikos. Generally just ignore those. The Hutakans, the whole thing with the Hutakans is they didn't spread out very much. That was their whole point, is they had a massive slave race. Well, they weren't that spread out, but yeah, they didn't go anywhere. They had people do it for them. They just sat around, smoked their tobacco, and had all their slaves play Uber Eats for them. Number 26, the Norse gods of Mystara, because I think the number one source for continuity errors is still Northern Reaches. This is, so where did Odin come from? Well, the best way we can do it is that when we created the Great Barrier to solve some problems, let me see, and then some of the Norse gods, some of the gods tried to get through before the barrier was complete, so they sent in avatars, because they couldn't manifest. Gods can't manifest on the prime material plane, but they can send their avatars. Well, some of the avatars went through, the barrier was created, was solidified. The avatars and the gods got separated by the barrier. So their avatars actually became immortals by questing for immortality. So Odin and Hel are originally avatars of Odin and Hel. But since they no longer have they had no longer contact with them, they became their own people. Thank you, Mike J. Let me see. Just out of curiosity, is there any resources online dedicated to AD&D second edition conversions from Mystara without using the second? Actually, yes. Most of the gazetteers had a page for translating second edition and Mystara back and forth. Let me see. Miss Miguel Roca, are all the settings within the same material plane? There's multiple prime material planes. It depends on who you ask. there is a lot of Planescape. According to Planescape, yes. According to Spelljammer, maybe. Other sources say no. There's also the fact that Dark Sun is apparently supposed to be in the far future, so it outdates everything else. So it really depends on which ones you're going with. Nordic Maelstrom, how much of the Mystara flavor used from going from Beckme to AD&D Second Edition? Quite a bit. That's why Second Edition continuity errors kind of dominate this list. Let me see. Okay, the location of Haven from the Palace of the Silver Princess. This one's going to be a hard one to explain because you need a visual reference. Thanks, OBS. The original Palace of the Silver Princess, the orange cover, the one that's worth more than my car. They put Haven kind of, let me see, I do it with my hands. Marsh here, mountains, Haven. Well, and then forests around it. There's no place that really fits. The closest place I could find was the Phaeacian province of Tarsia on one of Thorfinn Tate's maps. But even then, it's not a good fit because there's no marsh nearby. But there's very few mountains that that fit the bill. Okay, so number 28, another second edition one. The Cult of Hala. In Gazetteer 1, they're this creepy. They're this creepy group that hero worships Duke Stefan, and they think he's the reincarnation of Hala, and nobody likes them, and they're like, and you know they act from the shadows. But then they came up with the module Hail the Heroes, and you meet the Cult of Hala, and for being bad guys, all but one of them's neutral good. And the one bad guy is true neutral. And his tactics are a little brutal, but he's not evil. None of them are evil. In fact, only one of them is not good. And the funny thing is their plan is they want to get the shield of Hala and give it to the Duke. And for some reason, this is considered the bad option when the Duke's going to take it, thank them, give them a reward, and give it back to the Church of Karamikos or Traladara. So they're not exactly criminal masterminds. And I like the Hail the Hero version better than the Gazetteer version because it gives them a reason, and it's just like they're not bad people. They're just quirky. Let me see. Number 29, Test of the Warlords is specifically set after the fall of Baron von Hendrix. Ludwig von Hendrix is too good of a villain to be thwarted that early in your adventurers' lives, so ignore that. Let me see. Yeah, Miguel Roca. Yeah, but the players aren't supposed to be getting the magic shield anyways because you're supposed to decide which one of the churches get it. That was a weird module. The art was so randomly colored. Oh, I wish I could show it to you. Okay, number 30, Erakol's relationship with the Empress in Warlords versus Test of the Warlords versus Dawn of the Emperor. In Warlords, he's looking to break away. In Dawn of the Emperors, he's a mama's boy who's happy because despite not having magic, she gave him a land. Go with the Dawn of the Emperors. So that way, he's not a great leader, but it's because it's generally because he's not that skilled at ruling, not because he wants to break away. She's already got one incompetent son that's worthless. Erakol's, he may not be living up to his potential, but he's trying. Let me see, number 31. This one comes from one of the Dragon magazines, one of the Princess Arc ones, where you've got demons opening up rifts in Limbo, Mystara Limbo, which is kind of like where the dead go before they get reincarnated. To gather souls. The thing with this is it's not the standard demons like in the Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. It's Mystara demons, and even then the Immortals will step in if they start grabbing souls that are spoken for. In other words, the ones that have a religion or that follow certain Immortals. Let me see. 32. Oh, this is where, get ready for the Week of Dread stuff, guys. Okay, the Week of Dread is, and one of the reasons why Wrath of the Immortals appears here so much. Magic stops working for a week. All magic, divine magic, arcane magic, immortal magic. So, let me see. Floating R doesn't fall out of the sky, despite the fact that there's no magic and everything else is supposed to happen. So, how do you explain that? Easy. The wizard R, who enchanted the island, used Blackmoor technology to do it, and Blackmoor technology is not affected by the lack of magic caused by the radiance, which is also Blackmoor tech. So Blackmoor tech is not affected. Why are the Blacklore elves, who are powered through magical technology, because they're cyber elves, and it says if they leave the valley, the magic stops working. And if the magic stops working, the elves stop living. Well, it's a replication of Blackmoor tech, and Blackmoor tech is not affected by the week of dread, because I'm hand waving this. Let me see. The week of dread closes off the plane of fire, which serves as the sun to the hollow world, which means there's no sun for a week. There's no heat for a week, which would probably kill off most of them. Yeah. Let's just say the Week of Dread doesn't happen in the hollow world, but it's supposed to, because it says it in a. It says it's supposed. There's actually one module that actually has it happen, but it doesn't work. So ignore that. Let me see. The Week of Dread did not drop the city of Serene out of the sky. Okay, seriously, ignore most of the world of the Week of Dread. It doesn't work on magic. It doesn't work on Blackmoor devices. We'll just say that. Let me see. 36. The second edition, Red Steel, talks about the playing Aranea, but never gives them any rules. We're gonna thank you, Belavolt. Belvolt, yes. Yeah, we're gonna have to seriously work at the Aranea rules, because Beckme is gonna have to probably steal some from the Night Howlers book, second edition. You give them stats, and you give them their ability to shape change. We just have to work out all of the Aranea, because they gave you partial rules for all of them. Number 37. This is the one where we stopped a campaign. Well, okay, I live in Houston. Everybody knows that. I am not far from NASA. And so I have gamed with multiple NASA scientists. And we were talking about, we were in one game, the Great Meteor was going to happen, which is the meteor that slams into parts of Galantry and all this stuff and leaves a crater 50 miles across. At which point, one of the NASA scientists pulls out his little app, which can calculates meteor strikes, because they have that. And a meteor, the depth of a meteor is 60% of the width of the meteor. So he was able to calculate that a meteor 50 miles across would be 30 miles deep. And then he just measured out the 50 miles by the 30 miles, and
World extinction event.
Yes, world extinction event. It would have wiped out all the life in the planet in a year or two, because it would have blackened the sky. And yeah, he ran the numbers multiple times. And remember, Mystara is only, according to all the maps, it's only 18,000 miles across. It's not, well, Earth is 24,000 miles, hence 24 hours in a day. So yeah, so have the Great Meteor explode above the ground. It's still going to cause a nuclear winter. Yeah. Let me see, Tyrone, how long ago was this? This was about 2 years ago. Granted, it was something, it was because, that was his job, was to, look at meteor craters. NASA.
I think he means 67.
Oh. Yeah, you could cut down this. It's not the size of the meteor, it's the size of the crater. Yeah, you could cut down the size of the crater but then you're not going to be wiping out. You're not going to be leaving a spot for all the orcs and goblins to go into, and you're not going to be wiping out a good chunk of Glantry. In order to have a survivable crater, yeah, it might take out a city, but it's not going to take out 2 provinces. Yeah, or you say magic did it. Now let me see. Quest for the Heartstone introduced all the toys. And a lot of the toys weren't, and they put the adventure in Blackmoor, Mystara, and they included stuff like half elves and half orcs. Well, just say it's a different world. Just okay, they have half orcs and half elves, but they have human stats, and it's a different world. Let me see something for me. Warduke in a lot of the art changes from he's normally left-handed, but some of the art they put him right-handed because the artists didn't realize that he's left-handed. Well, Warduke is left-handed. Anybody that draws him otherwise is wrong. All right. Here comes one that's close to our heart, which would be better if I had a picture. Rockholm's rivers and lakes make no damn sense. A lake can only have one river flowing out from it. That's how physics work. Water will take the easiest path and ignore everything else. Lake Stall has 3 rivers flowing out of it, with 1 river going into it. Lake Clintest has 4, though one of them is off to the side. So how do you do this? And there's also a river that starts in Vestland, flows away from the ocean, around through Ethengar, down through Rockholm, changes course, goes apparently uphill, and it's like, I have no idea how to fix that. That is not even remotely close to be fixable. But how do you explain the multiple rivers coming out of the Dwarven Lakes? There's actually something you can say is they're using dams. They're using dams to control the flow to have multiple rivers, so that way the dams are providing power to the underground. That was the only way we could explain it. So yeah, there's dams all over the Rockholm. Let me see. Another big one. 41. The polar holes. There's holes in the poles of the Mystara that lead into the lead into the Hollow World. The problem is Blackmoor, being super high tech, would immediately notice there's holes in the planet. Huge holes, hundreds of miles across. These guys have satellites. They have aircraft. They would find them, but they don't exist in Blackmoor because Blackmoor was shoehorned into Mystara. So, yeah. So the best way to explain that one is when they had the elemental chaos after the Great Rain of Fire. That's when those holes opened. So they weren't around in Blackmoor times. Let me see. Angus McClintock, when they changed him to a half orc in the 2nd edition, changing back into human. He has orc blood, which is extremely rare, but he's still a human. He's ugly, but he's still a human. Then they also, 43, they changed King Cole into a shadow elf in the Glantry box set. The Kobold, King Cole. It's the first part of his name, Cole. But now he's a shadow elf. He's an ugly, twisted shadow elf, which the shadow elves only pass, they can pass for ugly stuff when they're born, but it was Monty Cook. Monty Cook wanted to get a shadow elf. He changed King Cole into a shadow elf. No, King Cole is not a shadow elf. Let me see. Tyriana de Amberville, another Amberville entry. Depending on who you ask, she's a half elf in 2nd edition, or she's a 19-year-old elf, which is the elven word for jailbait. Okay, just change her into a human with elf ancestry. Then you get King Strongheart, going back to Quest for the Heartstone, another toy boy. This guy exists in 3 different settings at the same time. He's in the Quest for the Heartstone setting. He's the future king of Irindi. And he's also in Forgotten Realms because of, what is that? The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, where he makes a cameo at the end. So he's all over the place because he gets bored into the Forgotten Realms like all the other good characters. You can either ignore the other two and just, or you can set him being a king of Irindi in the future and just say he came through. Or you can just have Strongheart be his last name. So it's like, the guy in Forgotten Realms is Richard Strongheart, and you've got Dave Strongheart and Bill Strongheart. Yeah, he can plane shift all over the place. It's a toy tie-in. I'm not going to put too much thought into it. You've got all the problems for Divania. The Divania map was extremely strange. I keep saying that. And they kept retconning it. Just stick with the Voyage of the Princess Ark as much as you can, and then fill in the rest on your own. You see, you got the demon power levels, which I just talked about in the video. Wrath of the Immortals, the demons were like on par with upper level Immortals. In the Immortal box set and Wrath of the Immortals, they were far more manageable. And these are the guys that like a decent level party in other settings, mid to higher tier characters could take on demons, and with be a fight, but they could do it. Mystara demons, no. They're throwing around immortal level stuff, and they will tear apart a party because they have power levels, they have power points, and you can trade power points into cast spells, which means in the Wrath of the an Immortals box set, Baelor has 5,000 power points, and he can cast Wish by spending 9 of them. Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay, number 48. Here's another popular continuity error. The Immortal Nyx, the patron immortal of the undead. There's Mystara is not like other settings. You can have patrons of different, clerical domains, and you can have duplications. And it's not a big deal for them. So Nyx, who is the, like I said, undead, in some of them she's neutral evil. In others, she's true neutral. And the ones that write out her background explain that she's, the way I explain her background is she comes from a plane where like everything's undead. So she sees the strengths and the power of the undead, and she wants to make everything undead because she thinks it's improving them. She's not doing it because she's evil. She's doing it because she thinks it's the right thing to do. So she's got a really weird, her version of morality is different from everyone else. Not being malicious, but she doesn't understand that that's not how things work where she's at now. Let me see. The Planar Familiars. These guys were a hoot. Second edition, they're basically super familiars that wizards could get. And one of the rules is the Immortals would change down into these little bitty familiars like angels and cherubs and serve wizards. No Immortal's going to do that. No Immortal, unless they're being forced, is ever going to do that. So delete that rule. Let me see. Yeah, Strongheart is a 10th level paladin, is a 9th level lawful fight. Yeah. It's Quest for the Heartstone is not a module we like to talk about. Let me see. Test of the Warlords. You have gigantic gargantuans attacking a small tribe of dwarves that live in a dwarven city that's somehow large enough to handle gargantuans. Yeah, okay. That's like trying to say, well, it's like trying to have a bunch of giraffes in your house at the same time. Best suggestion is use the repossessed faction from the Legions and Legends source book, which are the who have rediscovered this this cavern, and they're the ones being attacked. They're still bad guys, but they're going to play nice. Let me see. 51. Where the hell did the Belkades come from? Yeah, according to the Belkades lore, the Belkades elves of Glantry, they came from the south. And that concludes what we know where the Belkades came from. We got to find someplace. The closest way we can do it, the closest spot on Devania that has terrain similar to Spain is the area around Garganon, which, again, if I had a map, I could show you. That's where you would put the Belkades. They could be driven out by a plague or something 200 years ago, or maybe they just got bored and left. Let me see. 52, the Alfheim Orc invasion. It was either 50 years ago or 20 years ago. The 20-year ago orc invasion, where they captured all the orc slaves and finally let them go, makes a lot more sense and a lot less continuity problems. 53, there's a Nightwing in the nation of Oinkmar that draws power from the sphere of entropy. Okay, the spheres are not physical locations. They're not power sources. They're philosophical schools. They mean the plane of negative energy. All right, let me see. 54. Every immortal panel in the Wrath of the Immortals that requires a entropic immortal has Nyx on it. She's everywhere because she's the non-evil immortal. Okay, that's not going to. She can't be on all of them. Other immortals you can replace her with is Loki, Masawu, or Talitha. Trickery, corruption, though through corruption through being nice people, and just generally screwing around with people. Yeah, Daniel K. make them from the same place as the Amber family. The problem is that their timeline doesn't. Thank you, Velwyn. Shirley the Battle Pug. Shirley Battle Pug sends her regards. Thank you very much. Long live the fighters. Okay, let me see. 55. Thank you, Tony H. Let me see. 55. The Immortal Storm hierarchs are different. That was because the Immortal Storm was written using the Immortal box set, which was superseded by Wrath of the Immortals. Use the Wrath of the Immortal charts. 56. They have a Mind Flayer in the Glantree adventure. A Mind Flayer. The creatures called out by name under stuff that the Council of Intrusion does not allow in Mystara. They hunt these guys down specifically. Pick another creature. Pick any creature, because these guys are going to get the Knights of Ebony on them faster than anything, because they are not allowed. They're not tolerated. 57, Koralgesh, the city of Koralgesh, which is a dungeon, which you'll find in one of the dungeon magazine adventures, was this super powerful trading post near the Savage Coast, which had contacts with everybody, was super rich, very influential. Then they had a volcano and everybody died and everybody forgot about it 30 years later. That doesn't work that way. You're not, if your trading partner gets covered in a volcano, you're going to at least remember the volcano. The way to do it is to kick it back in the timeline a bit. Okay, number 58. According to Minrathad, they closed all their ports when the Meditor clan lost power, and then immediately regained it when they reopened the power. That's not how economics works. If you stop selling to everyone, everybody's going to find somebody else to buy from you. Even if you come back, they're not going to go back to you immediately. So we're going to say that they never fully closed. 59. Who is the father of demons? The guy that helped the Modrigswerg and the Dark Elves, or the Rexen. And they said, hey, he's the father of demons. He's never mentioned again, ever. Not even in the book he was mentioned in. Just say, call him an avatar of Loki. Let me see. Number 60, the First World. The 5th edition First World. I know a lot of you guys don't have anything to do with 5th edition. But there's a few that do, because it's the new edition and that's what people play. And it's like the First World contradicts the Mystara creation story in pretty much every way, because Mystara was created as a response to the Dawn War, where everybody was like running around killing each other, and the old ones who were outside of the fight said, you know what, we don't have anything to do with this, so screw you guys. Ignore that. The current edition is always easy to draw in new players. That's the same for everything, because it's the one being supported. You don't have to, until the DMs Guild, like when there was fourth edition, when fourth edition was out, there was, it was easy to get people into the fourth edition rather than like trying to get them in Mystara, the old stuff, because it was easier to find. You could wait for a fourth edition book to get published rather than having to hunt and search for a, copy of Darrican. Print on demand has done amazing things for Mystara. Let me see. Number 61, the Perithian pirate location. In Mystara space, there is a bunch of guys flying around being space pirates. And where they came from is they come from an asteroid field. And Mystara space has got a lot of continuity problems, which I don't go into much because we don't go into space that often. There was a planet between the fourth and fifth planets now that was called Damocles. Just have when that planet breaks up for whatever reason, which was never gone into because it was mentioned briefly, that's where they came from. Number 62. Oh, a Spelljammer continuity problem. Going back to second edition, when they had, Spelljammer has a lot of continuity problems. Okay, so how does the Beagle go from one planet to the other, like trapped in a crystal sphere? Like this every solar system is a crystal sphere. Steal from Battlestar Galactica, the new one, where you basically dimensional jump to another spot. So they don't actually go to the edge of the crystal sphere like the other ships do. They teleport. And let me see. Number 63. You've got werebears in the northern reaches, which are valued and treasured warriors, versus night howlers, where all werebears are antisocial loners that like to ignore people and hang out by themselves. Okay, guys, ignore the antisocial werebears. Go with the northern reaches. As Teddy Roosevelt once said in a comic book, I like werebears. Good Norwegian stock. Excellent fishermen. Okay, let me see. Number 64, the mention of Alphatia being Atlantis, which was like one of the most off the wall random things that ever got mentioned in a module. Yeah, ignore that. The Valoin elves from the Ostduke. The Ostdok gnomes. I'm sorry, my Dutch is terrible, which is sad because I'm part Dutch. On my father's mother's side, when my father was telling everybody that we were Scotch, Irish, and Welsh and English, and his own mother goes, "I'm Dutch." It's like, we're not Dutch. Like, I'm Dutch. My maiden name is Seeger, spelled with two A's. Anything spelled with two A's is very Dutch. So the Valoin gnomes were either defeated in 500 BC or 500 AC because they were driven out of the nation of Faerun, which in the northern reaches. So which one was it, 500 BC or 500 AC? Go with 500 BC. It solves a lot of problems. No problem, Eagle Feather. Thank you for joining the chat. Sorry, it's not pretty like it was supposed to be. Just a bit there. Let me see. Linking the radiance to drain the sphere of entropy. Again, entropy is not a energy source. It's like draining, psychoanalysis. It's a school of thought. It would drain necrotic energy from, again, the plane of negative energy. Let me see. 67. You have one book is okay. Savage Coast, when they started releasing the books for free, you had the Monsters Compendium introduced us to Crimson Dragons, which were the dragons that were addicted to Cinebril. And then you had the Orc's Head Peninsula and introduced to the Vermilion Dragons, which were the dragons addicted to Cinebril. And they had the exact same stats and the exact same everything. And all they did was just take the dragon and change the name based on where it was. It was a classic case of just people not talking to each other inside the same building. You can pick one or the other. It's not a big deal. Or you can just say that the dragons have two different names based on regional or the regional location. Like a couch versus a sofa, or a divan. Okay, location of Rahazia. The Temple of the Siswa. Everybody's been asking about this one. They say to put it in Darrakan, but the terrain doesn't match up. So we'll go. The closest place to match up with the terrain is the border of Karamikos and Darrakan, north of Penhaligon. And even then, that's not the greatest fit. Okay, number 69. One book says Isildur gave the Tree of Life before he became an immortal, and one book says he became an immortal after he became immortal. He gave them the Tree of Life. It makes a more interesting, massive, epic adventure if he gave them the tree beforehand. Let me see. 70. According to the Etrugan book, the Tiger Clan never raided outside of Etrugan, only went after the Turtle Clan with this giant forest between them. Again, go to the Vaults of Pandius, download the revised Etrugan Gazetteer, because it's just, I'm proud of it, and I worked hard on it, and it actually gives them their own culture and their own motivations. But yeah, ignore that whole thing about the Tiger Clan never raiding anybody except for the Turtle Clan. Have them raid everything. They make great villains. Okay, 71. Oh, this was a tough one. Let me see. Oh, real quick, Whiskey Hound. I've seen some second edition Mystara Easter eggs and link Spelljammer Planescape to around 1010. The Immortals be less capable or willing to stop outsiders. According to the Council of Etrusion, they let in some and they don't let in others. If a race is considered invasive or if a race is considered hostile, they will actively try to stop it. Especially as they will try to stop any race that's tied to the outer planes, like angels, demons, or devils. They specifically target those. Let me see. Number 71. Okay, this one was a tough one. The elves lived where the elves were living before they were forced underground after the second Kablooey. Hello, doggo. Okay. At that time, the axis hadn't shifted yet, so they would have been living in the Arctic. So the best way to say is, like, when they got to that area, they still went underground, but they didn't go as deep as they did to stay alive. Let me see, 72. Oh, this one's a fun one. In the Etrugan book, it says that Zonga, the plant that makes wizards lethargic, has a very strong flavor that cannot be disguised no matter how much you flavor it or cook it. And then you go into the Phaeacian modules, the DDA 3 and 4, and you've got a Phaeacian senator poisoning everybody with Zonga, which is a direct contradiction. So just ignore the Zonga as a poison. Let me see. Number 73, another population glitch between module and gazetteer. Specularum. The Veiled Society has about 5,000. The gazetteer has about 50,000. Go with the gazetteer. A fun one, which would be great if I actually could show you the image. Green Lake River, which is the river on Sunsval, which is the capital of Alphatia, on the city, it's north of Sunsval on the city map. But if you go on the national map, it runs south. What you need to do is take the compass rose on the city map and flip it 180 degrees. 75. This one was a fun one. Savage Coast Monsters Compendium has the Heroic Spirit, which is a true neutral spirit, which is the ghost of a adventurer that died before he could finish his quest. The Heroic Spirit does a lot of true neutral things, like helping people do good deeds, influencing people to do the right thing, acting as people's conscience, and generally influencing people to go around helping one another, and basically being neutral good in everything. So, yeah, the Heroic Spirits they're neutral good. They're not true neutral. Yeah, that was just like, hey, we're just gonna make them neutral. They're undead. They're true neutrals. Yeah, but they're not doing anything neutral or evil. Okay, number 76. Oh, this one's a fun one because you have 2 different chapters telling you 2 different things. Okay, Tall Tales of the Wee Folk. There are no additional Fae creatures being made. They cannot be truly destroyed. They cannot be created. The number of Fae creatures never changes. And then it gets to the part where the Dryad says, hey, if you have sex with a Dryad and you're a guy and she gives birth to a son, it's going to come out as a fairy. And if you have sex with her and it's a girl, it's going to come out as a Dryad. So that's how we get more new Fae. The 2 ways you can do it is by saying, it's like, okay, well, the child is going to be a reincarnated Fae that's being forced to regenerate, or you can just classify the Dryad as Sylvan, which makes a lot more sense. Let me see. 77. This one was always fun. For those who read the Poor Wizard's Almanacs, you have the Night Dragon Sin. She is spoilers, 30-year-old spoilers, so the tags long fall off. The Night Dragon's sin is manipulating Glantry to get what she wants by driving out the elves and turning people evil and all this sort of fun stuff. But she's disguised as a noble woman, and anybody that discovers her true form, she gets rid of because she's a really powerful dragon. The problem is also in the timeline, the adventurers are going to play Mark of Amber, where they are going to go into basically the mind of Etienne d'Amberville, set him straight, and the exiled immortal is going to come back as the doddering old man, but he's still going to be an immortal. And when he comes back, he is he can see through mortal spells. So so when Sin pulls off her master plan and the party tries to stop her, or one party of adventure will try to stop her, and the other party of adventurers has just returned Etienne d'Amberville to full power. And he's going to walk in, look at the dragon lady, and pop her like a zit. There's no reason to change this. Yes, they're not contradictory, but it's anticlimactic. And it's still going to be fun. Let me see, number 78. Tall Tales of the Wee Folk mentions multiple she kingdoms all over the map. Of course, since they were retconned into it, they're not mentioned in anything. So one thing you can do is anytime there's a large spot of like forests that don't have anything in it, like the middle of southern Etrugan, put a fairy kingdom there. 79. Canon, the Ethengarian scout that becomes a noble in Test of the Warlords. Alyssa Patrician. Good Mongol name. For fun, you can always, or if you want to explain why she's got that name and still keep her Ethengarian, just have her being a Glantrian exile. It would give her a bit of a character. Let me see. You've got 2 rivers off of Threshold. In one book, it's the Waterold River, and in another book, it's the Wolfwold River. All right. How do you fix that? The first one is the Phaeacian name, and the second one is the Trolladaran name. And you can always have the party. You can always have the party get confused when they talk to different people. Let me see. Where are we? We're moving along because I'm not actually having to show you any pictures. Let me see. 81 Threshold in Night's Dark Terror. Threshold is very cramped and everybody's moving shoulder to shoulder, building to building. In the Karamikos Gazetteer, Threshold has a rule that all houses have to be built 50 feet apart, and everybody has gardens. Spacious Threshold sounds more fun, and that's where you would have the most opportunity, except for Fogor Island, which is set in both ones to predate the rules, so that one is cramped and menacing. Number 82, the first Naka monster. It is a 50-foot long giant fire-breathing worm with a huge maw. incredibly dangerous, lots of hit points, and it does 1d8 bite damage. 1d8. That's it. It's longsword damage. Let me see. So you want to change that one up? Let's go with a 4d8. Okay. Number 83. I can see the end. You have a creature called the Scamille, which is likes to lurk around. It's a shape changer because Mystara loves shape changers. There's an upcoming video where I talk about a dozen of them. The Scamille can take the image or take the shape of furniture. You can take the shape of just about anything. So it sounds like a mimic, right? Because it does a lot of mimicky stuff. It has the mimicky glue stuff. It has all the sorts of mimic. The problem is we also have rules for mimics. So we have a Scamille and a mimic. So the question is are they the same thing? And no, they're really not. They have a lot in common, but the Scamille actually has a high intelligence, can actually talk, where the mimic is a much more lower intelligence. So you make it so the Scamille is, it's not neutral hungry. It'll actually negotiate with you, but it'll still eat like vermin and stuff. Okay, let me see. Number 84, the Wise Women of the Northern Reaches. The Wise Women are incredibly rare, shunned magic users that are not trusted by anyone. And on page 8, and then on page 12, it points out that just about everybody knows one. Most of them are sought for their wisdom, and every jarl, nobleman, and merchant worth their salt usually is in contact with one and values their judgment. So what is it? Are they rare and trusted, or not trusted, or a common part? You probably want to make them uncommon, but everybody still trusts their judgment. They'd probably be slightly less common than wizards, but they're also going to be a lot more accepted because they're part of the Northern Reachers culture. Number 85, Prince Tridorian and Princess Asterelia. Okay. In Dawn of the Emperors, it is mentioned that in order to prevent problems cropping up between the two empires, they swap representatives, which are the youngest children of each of the emperor and the empress. They're hostages. Okay. And then Tridorian, the Alphatian, can't use magic, so he goes to Thyatis, and they tell him, okay, you can't use magic. Great. Can you swing a sword? All right, fantastic. Here, we're going to teach you how to really swing a sword. Come on, you're doing great, Tridorian. Keep it up. Yeah, come on. We're going to do press. Hey, Tridorian, we're going to go do presses tomorrow. You want to join us? Fantastic. Come on, you be one of us. And Asterelia, who can cast, is a low-level wizard, goes to Alphatian. It's like, you can cast magic too? I want to cast magic. Okay, and then they're never mentioned again. They're two of the most interesting characters in Dawn of the Warlords, or not Dawn of the Emperors, and they're never mentioned outside those books, especially when you get the war that starts. And both of these lower level characters are in the enemy camp. So how do you fix that? Does when Alphatius sinks, does Asterelia go with it? When Thingcall die, what happens to Tridorian? So the best way to do it is to have them both, be protected. It's like they're still valuable. You don't kill them just because you're at war. And then after the war, they get promoted to ambassadors, assuming you use the war on all sides where Alphatia doesn't sink. Otherwise, Asterelia is kind of screwed. I don't think she's 9th level, so she will not have any memory of her family if she goes to the Hollow World. Let me see. Foster Davy Smith. Yes, it's a mimic you can actually bribe. It's a mimic you can actually hire. And it's like there's a huge amount of shape changers in Mystara that of different capabilities, intelligences, and motivations. It's like they take the mimic to the nth degree. Let me see. The Vengeance of Alvax. They have a flying castle. It's mentioned that it's Ericol's brother, but Ericol's brother is never mentioned ever. not in that one because they haven't written Xandor or Tridorian or any of the others yet. So if anybody asks, just tell them it's Xandor's, because Xandor is the kind of guy that would take a flying castle and use it to, go cruise for chicks. Number 87. In the 1000 timeline, you've got all these people. Anton Radu, the Lady Marilenev, I think is at Squire Ottersbury, and they're all on the brink of death. Some of them are supposed to die. Canonically, they're going to die. And then you have the Wrath of the Immortals time jump, and it's 12 years later, and all of them are still alive. 12 years later, which would put several of them over 100 years old. So get out the pen, kill them off, rewrite stuff, especially for Lady Marilenev, which I think she's like 87. So she would be 99, and yeah, that means the party can actually get her territory because all of the rest of her family is dead. Let me see. Number 88. The Mystaran calendar is actually much shorter than Earth calendar. It's 360 days instead of 300 or 365, and there's no leap years. So you got to remember that you need to add like 10% to the life expectancy of everyone, because they're calculating their life using our calendar, but their calendar actually goes through the years a lot faster. Let me see. Number 89. This one was a tough one. The premise behind the Night modules, the trilogy that's set in the Hollow World, is Thanatos convinces that every immortal, except for like one, that there's a big threat coming, and they've all got to go investigate the threat, and the threat turns out to be a trap, and he traps all the immortals except for the one guy that he can browbeat. Daniel K. No, they do not have the holiday week. They do not have any holiday week. I looked all over the place. No, they don't get. Forgotten Realms has the holiday week where they have 360 days and they have a 5-day holiday week, but Mystara doesn't have that. Let me see. So Thanatos traps the entire pantheon, every one of them. Okay, first up, nobody's going to trust Thanatos. He's the patron of death. They're certainly not all going to jump into it. That was a plot point that never worked. So you just have to he can do it to the immortals that watch over the Hollow World, sure. And that's probably the best way you can retcon that one. Number 90. The Book of Wondrous Inventions mentions that they invented the Manopult to get people out of for Duke Stefan to have people infiltrate during the siege of Krakatos. The problem is Krakatos is ruins until much later, so that one never happened. Number 91, the famous Glantrian Spring, that starts on January 3rd. Due to a oversight in the production, the Glantrian calendar was wrong and set the spring festival for the schools in the dead of winter. So you just have to change it to the winter festival and change all the cool spring happening stuff to like winter stuff, which they already have. Let me see. Thunder Rift location. I was going to show this on the map, but I don't have it. Obviously, that the thunder. Yeah, you take the Thunder Rift. There's mountains. There's a mountain range southwest of Lantry that is approximately 300 miles across in any direction. Hollow out the middle of that, and that's where your Thunder Rift is. Because you just got to make a spot surrounded by mountains. That's the most dead space in all of Mystara. Now, let me see. Castle Mystamir, the first castle you run across Bargle. There's a spot. Where is that located? Near Threshold, there is several hills called Wolfwold Hills, and that is that's the best place to put that one. Number 94, the Karamikos plague from the Kingdom of Adventure box set that has no real effects whatsoever on the story, on the timeline, on anything. Just ignore it because they never did it. Let me see the Thaiatian expansion. Number 95. Thaiatus's borders are just absolutely inconsistent. We know they occupied Irendi. So they reached that far, but somehow they never reached Minrathad. They reached the Savage Coast and the Five Shires, but they barely touched the Five Shires. Yeah, you want to scatter Thaiatian ruins all over the place because they've reached Glantry, but somehow they didn't go through Darrican, which is impossible. They had influence over Ostland, but not Silderfjord. You can have, if you need a ruins, if you need a castle, just make it Thaiatian and, explain that over the thousands, over 1,000 years, they've pulled back, expanded, that their borders have always been changing. Let me see. 96, the population of the Heldens, because they are incredibly inconsistent from book to book. So the population of the Icelandic people are about 40,000 scattered over about 100 different small to medium-sized cities. Granted, none of the cities are within 50 miles of each other, which is one of the reasons why it's difficult to invade the Helden freehold, because if you capture one, you've got a long march to get to the next supply of food. Number 97, there's more elf clans than there are trees of life, according to the book. Well, Ilsundul, I think, made 9 trees of life, and there's 12 of them to be accounted for. Well, have the others created by other elven immortals. Number 98, Red Steel. In the Voyage of the Princess Ark in the Dragon magazines, they used hand crossbows. In Red Steel, they used pistols. I am a Texan. They use pistols, especially since they have the nation of Cimarron. Number 99, they have 2 moons, but one of them has no effect on the tide whatsoever. That would be the invisible moon, Pandius. No, Miyashima is the invisible moon. Okay. Per Bruce Hurd himself, the effect that makes the Miyashima magical and invisible also allows it not to affect the tides. Number 100, you have one immortal that is completely locked away on the prime material plane. That's Demogorgon, which technically isn't possible because they would, if you were going to lock away Demogorgon, or if you're going to lock away immortal, you're going to put them on the prime material plane. So what you have to do is you explain that as in they managed to trick Demogorgon into creating a powerful avatar, which took up all of her power points to try to ravage the world, because that's what Demogorgon does. And then they trap that avatar. If that avatar ever gets out, you've got a Godzilla level event. Okay, number 1. And this is the one that's caused the most problems. There's 3 timelines for the dwarves. The Rockholm timeline says the dwarves were created about 500 years ago, and they never traveled outside of Rockholm after all the Kogalor dwarves died off, and then so they created the Rockborn dwarves, and the Rockborn dwarves didn't come out until much later. The problem is in the next book, The Northern Reaches, 1,500 years ago, you had the Mondrigsburg dwarves, and they were cast out of dwarven society. And then the next book, you have the dwarves expanding all over the place, setting up outposts and conquering people and like taking over the shires where they fought for hundreds of years. So which one is it? The best way to do this, and there is somebody actually put out like a multiple page explanation over on the vaults. The dwarven clans did stay in the mountain during all those times. And yeah, the time that they were created does go back about 1,500, 2,000 years. But they didn't come out because they were hollowing out the mountain. They're doing all the other stuff, except for the ones that were exiled or got tired and went out. And they were not the Rockholm dwarves. They were their own dwarves. That's the best way you can fix that timeline. Okay, guys, that is 101 continuity error fixes. I wish it could have been better. I wish it could have been prettier. I wish OBS did not try to launch. I'll have to figure out what the hell happened with OBS, because I have no idea why it was fighting itself, because it's saying that there's no audio coming from my camera, so I will not launch. And then I'm telling you, like, the camera does not have audio. The microphone has audio. It's like, well, we see the microphone and we're using the microphone, but we're also using the camera. Yeah. Jesus, I am not happy. So thanks for all the donations, guys. I will see what we can do. And if you guys got any other tips or any other suggestions and whatever, oh, so I'm not the only one that's had this problem. That is good to know. I will try to get the video up on dinosaurs up as soon as I can. Taking the daughter to a car show because she likes her classic cars. And yeah, yeah, and I've been burned out on 5th edition, but I will be doing the new anthology because I love anthologies. You guys know how much I love anthologies. But I also like trying to convert things from the 5th edition to Mystara because it is a bit of a challenge. I'd have to look at Pathfinder. I haven't played Pathfinder in years. It just reminded me too much of 3.5. I am working on a new RPG. It is coming along swimmingly, but I don't have enough to fix to actually show you guys. It will be awesome. It will be far better than D&D in every aspect, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be writing it. The plan is to make this game, sell millions and millions and millions, and then buy Mystara. But yeah, thanks for coming out. Sorry this was not as epic as I expected it to be. I'll have to figure it out. Figure out what the problem was, and I will be kicking that around. I don't know what the hell happened. Everything was working fine, and then it just stopped. Yeah, it's the game is Drag Rider, and it's the basic premise is it's going to be all about player choice. We looked at everything that people liked from the old editions and tried to make it. It's like you had like feat trees, and realized that feat trees were not exactly the best thing because they locked you into a choice. It's like, okay, well, I buy my first feat, but now I have to buy the next feat, so it tells you what you had to get in the order. And they're bringing feat trees back, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having multiple options if you have to keep buying the same thing over and over again. So Drag Rider, one of the big basic premises is you have all your character abilities, but you pick what order they come in, and depending on which order you pick, the feats that you get are self-progressing. So whenever you get a new feat, all the other feats that you've already picked get better. You don't have to buy another feat to improve them. They do it on their own. That's the basic premise. It's all the other premises is we are not. We're actually giving people things to do during combat rather than just I swing. It's like, okay, well, now you have combat maneuvers. It's like, which combat maneuvers do you get? Whichever ones you want first, and so forth. Okay, guys, I have been talking for an hour and a half. I've been swearing for about an hour and a half before that. So thanks for coming out. Thanks for all the donations. If you see this video later and you want to help out, the links are in the links for the donations are in the description. So take care, everybody, and peace out.